Hey, it's Jason Morris. Welcome to the Phillies Show.
Everybody, how are you? Ruben Amaro Jr. is here. Jim Salisbury's here. I'm here. Todd Zalecki, brought to you by Foul Territory Network. It's the Phillies Show. It's Monday, December 2nd. The holiday season is upon us, guys. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving Day weekend. I did. I had my family in town. I took my kids to their first ever Flyers game.
Wow.
On
Nice.
Friday. Flyers beat the Rangers 3-1, and they loved it. They had a great time.
Dude, hockey's a great spectator sport, other than maybe baseball for me. I think hockey's one of my favorite, if not my favorite.
And I know Jim's a big hockey guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great game. And as much as I love the World Series and the baseball playoffs, I think the Stanley Cup's the best tournament in baseball in sports.
Yeah. Well, so the Flyers visited my 5-year-old daughter's school like last month. She comes out of the school that day. She's like, "Can we go to a Flyers game?" I'm like, "Where is this coming from?" And I didn't know that Gritty was at the school that day. So they sold her. Gritty sold her on the Flyers. So
great.
We'll probably be going back. It was pretty fun. Yeah,
they've
been playing great. Yeah, they've been playing great, man. That 19-year-old can do some things now.
Yeah, yes, he can. Yes, he can. So they love the Fanatic, and now they love Gritty. So that's been pretty cool. Baseball seems to be kind of the hot stove seems to kind of be heating up, guys. We seem to have who signed the last few days? Blake Snell, Frankie Montas just went to the Mets. Matthew Boyd, Kikuchi went to the Angels.
A lot of pitching, man.
Yeah,
pitching. Yeah, you're seeing that market starting to develop pretty quickly in the mid-level pitchers. I mean, even the guys that didn't even pitch very much. I mean, Boyd, how many innings did he have last year? And the guy gets, it's a pretty hefty contract. What, $15 million a year?
I think
what Boyd ended up getting. I mean, it's getting crazy out there. It's crazy. I mean, and it also shows you the importance of starting pitching. It's coming back.
Right.
Guys cannot, you just can't, the team just cannot sustain innings. All the innings that are necessary to pitch in the season, 162 times at least 9. And you have, 50% or more, sometimes 60% being eaten up by the bullpen. They just can't sustain it. You got to have guys who can throw on the mound and can pitch long and deep.
Look at Pivetta. Pivetta's going to get a decent deal.
Isn't that wild?
And he got a QO, so he may be screwed a little bit. So he got he got an offer, and I think he overboogied a little bit because, I mean, our team's going to want to give up draft picks for this guy. I mean, Pivetta is a decent pitcher, but he's got like a lifetime over 4 ERA, does he not?
Yeah.
I'm not. What am I missing?
I feel like if you're going to give up draft picks and bonus money and all that stuff, you need to get like a legit 1-2 type guy. And he's very good. He's a good pitcher, throws a lot of innings, but he would scare me.
He's like a number 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Isn't he? He's not like a 2 or a 1.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So,
but there's projections he could get like a $40 million deal.
Isn't that wild?
Or even more than that.
Think about how he left the Phillies. You would have thought this for him he was traded in 2020. Remember this, Jim? He was in the bullpen and they called him to warm up in a blowout loss in 2020 during the pandemic season. And he kind of like said, I ain't going in and pitching in a blowout, right? And Joe Girardi had to get on the bullpen phone and kind of talk him into it, say, we're not insulting you here. You got to come in and pitch. And then boom, a couple of days later, he's sent to the Boston Red Sox. And now
it was something I don't know if I've ever seen before. The manager get on the bullpen phone and actually talk to the guy. I'm sure it's happened before, but it was very unusual to see that.
Yeah.
And then, he went off to Boston.
Was that the Heath Hembry?
Brandon Workman.
They ended up not pitching very well for the Phillies. They really had struggled with their bullpen. But
yeah, they did. Well, today we've got kind of a fun show because we're giving a bunch of stuff away. And the first thing that we're giving away, I want you guys to take a look at this. This is from shibesports.com. This is a Phillies Mitchell and Ness hoodie. So if you're listening on the podcast, it's a blue hoodie, Phillies logo on the front. Go go to shibesports.com/TPS. That's TPS for the Philly show, to enter for a chance to win a free Mitchell and Ness Phillies hoodie. That's pretty sweet, guys. Shibe Sports, of course, has been with us all season. Shop Shibe Vintage Sports for all Philly sports fans on your holiday list. You can visit them in Center City, Wayne, Westchester. They just opened a new store in Ardmore. And you can always go to shibesports.com. And here's another thing. So they're giving away a hoodie to the Philly show listeners and viewers. You can also save 15% by using the promo code The Phillies Show upon checkout. So enter to win a free hoodie, Phillies hoodie. Use the Philly Show promo code to get 15% off your purchase. Shibe is great. We love Shibe. So that's kind of cool. You get some cool stuff for the holidays. And then also we've got some swag too. We got to mention we're sporting it right now.
Yeah, we do.
Finally got.
Yeah,
we've been
we
talking
do.
about it for months, and we finally got it.
No doubt. We get a close up of that sucker.
Yeah, there we go.
Let me get in there.
We got a Philly show swag T-shirts made by 47 brand, maroon T-shirts. Got our logo on the front, the Philly show on the back, and they're very cool. We're very excited. They're great T-shirts. Ruben, you are frozen, my man. You're frozen.
What?
You're frozen.
I froze.
You froze. But yeah, you can see that.
Happening.
So
crank up the hot stove. You're freezing.
Yeah.
Am I still freezing?
You're still froze. But yeah, the T-shirts are cool. You can go to thephillyshow.com. That'll redirect you to the site where I sell my books. You can get your T-shirt if you want to buy a T-shirt. And then later in the show, Jim's going to pick a winner based off the best fan question, best listener question, and they're going to win a free T-shirt. So we got the Shibe Sports T-shirt giveaway. We're going to give away a T-shirt here. Don't forget to go to shibesports.com. Use the Philly Show promo for 15% off. So let's answer some questions. Are you fellows ready? This is from JT Nason on Instagram. This guy, he's a little frustrated, I feel like. Why would the team trade Alec Bohm yet keep Marsh and Johan Rojas? Marsh is a terrible outfielder. Plus, Bohm was an all-star and home run derby participant and led the team in first half RBIs. Guys?
Well, first of all, they haven't traded anybody yet.
Right.
And second of all, I think it's pretty simple that Bohm would bring you back more because he has more value. He's a better player with upside, control for a couple of years. All a matter of value.
All a matter. What? Right, Ruben? I mean, anything that Jim said you disagree with? I mean,
to me, Alec Bohm again. I mean, rumors are rumors, and
right.
I mean, I think Dave Dombrowski's doing everything he possibly can to figure out how to not run it back and to try to, give this team a little bit of a different look or what have you. Mm-hmm. And I think he's going to be creative in that area. But Alec Bohm, man, that's a tough guy to move unless you're really getting a lot of talent back. He's a really good player. And he also sort of fits the bill of what they need in their lineup, which is a guy who can make, pretty consistent contact, driving runs, doesn't strike out a ton, will strike out, but not a ton. You guys got to be careful.
I can almost see this, Jim. Can't you see yourself in Clearwater this spring and then standing in front of Alec Bohm's locker and going, hey, what about all these rumors about you getting traded and the Phillies that lost patience with you and were frustrated with you and you were definitely going to get dealt? And how do you feel about being back, having that uncomfortable interview? That's happened before, right? I mean, I feel
all
like
all
the time. You were going to get traded. Now you're still here.
Well,
how do you feel about it?
Ruben. We've said this all along. I'm not trading him unless I'm getting a ton back. It's just you got an inflexible roster with some of the ages of guys and the contracts of guys that it's tough to move guys. And if you want to shake it up, that's one area you look. I think you could look at Todd at second base. Mm-hmm. But obviously, and there's the whole thing with this frustration getting benched in October, which kind of has fueled some of this. And there's other little bits and pieces we're hearing in this narrative that hasn't gone away, and the team has done nothing really to shoot it down. So I think their ears are wide open on this. They're not going to give them away. But if he helps them, if they'll move them if they can remake their team and get value back and talent back, and I think it's going to inch this thing forward. And I think also part of it is the strength of their farm system is infield, and they have some left side talent coming, and they might be able to, sooner, not necessarily overnight, but it's going to get here. And I just think their ears are open, and they have to be open because they need to be creative. But I ain't giving this guy away. He's an awfully good player.
Now, let me say something about the rumors, too, real quick, guys. I mean, I've dealt with this for years and years as an assistant GM for 10 years and as a GM for 7. I mean, the rumors, about 10% of them are real. The rest of them are really not. And it's very difficult for a front office to deal with those rumors because if you comment on them, then you give them life. If you don't comment on them, then that must be true. Right. So you're put in a tough position. Most organizations do not like to comment and can't comment on rumors unless they are absolutely locked down, not moving a guy. Like, I don't know, the Mike Trout situation or whatever. I mean, where they know that they're not moving somebody, you can make that statement, but that's not necessarily true. Because if you can say that and all of a sudden you move a guy, then it's, sound like you're full of crap.
I was listening to Ken Rosenthal on the Fair Territory podcast, and he made a good point. He says, this offseason, I'm going to really try my best. I hate saying Team X is interested in player Y. He's like, if you're good, every team is interested in you. And right, Jim, right? We've said this. We've seen this all the time, right? Like the Phillies are interested in Juan Soto.
Yeah, amazing.
Oh, really?
Man. Isn't it amazing?
Really?
Yeah.
Like I always say to people, the real story would be if the Phillies, if the source said, we are totally not interested in Juan Soto. I don't care what the price is. Now that is a news story, my man.
And here's another one. The Phillies have discussed X,
yes.
Y. Of course they've discussed it. It's what they get paid for.
It's our job.
To sit up there in a conference room and discuss everything that would make your team better.
Right, exactly. It's very funny. It's frustrating as a beat writer, Jim, and I'm sure, Ruben, when as a GM, you see that stuff pop up, but it is very frustrating. For instance, Alec Bohm, trade rumor stuff that's been going on. Garrett Crochet, for instance, right? Rumors that have been reports that have been out there since July, and then somebody puts out their Phillies are interested in Garrett Crochet. Yes, they've been interested since July. This is not new information.
But let me just say, you guys make a great point. If it's a good player, every single team, 30 of them are interested in that player, including the team that is trading him. Mm-hmm. The reality of it is, if it's a good player, why would you not be interested in that player? And so I know people have to sell and people have to, show that they, are in the inside and that kind of stuff. But the reality of it is, until a deal is done, until someone says dots the I's and crosses the T's, none of it means diddly.
Exactly.
And and that's the reality for me.
I think there's a real chance Alec Bohm could be traded. I think there's a real chance that Todd's scenario could happen, that he's in front of his locker in Clearwater.
First day.
Laughing about this. And I think there's also a chance that in September, we're writing stories about sometimes the best trades are the ones you don't make. So I just think there's a lot of balls in the air here because they go back to that phrase Dombrowski used, open-minded and being open-mindedness. And you have to be because, they got to tweak this thing and move it forward because they need to make a bigger step in October next year.
One thing that Pat Gillick told me years ago, man, just try to be as creative as possible. There's nothing wrong with being creative. Right. And I think that's the job of the GM, is to try to creatively make your team better.
Let's stay on the hot corner. This is from Ben Roush on Instagram. What are the chances of the Phillies signing Alex Bregman? Well, that all depends, of course, on what happens with Alec Bohm. But even if they would trade, let's say they trade Alec Bohm, what are the chances of signing Alec Bregman? Again, going back to something Ken Rosenthal wrote a couple weeks ago, there have been some numbers, projections, like he could get 6 years, 180. But then Ken wrote, and Ken is one of the best. He's one of the people, if you see him put it out there,
yes, he is.
You should pay close attention. He said he wouldn't be surprised if Alex Bregman was looking for a new contract that comes close to what Manny Machado just got in his recent contract extension, which was over a $300 million deal. So
why wouldn't Bregman be looking for that? You aim high, right?
Exactly.
I don't think he gets that, but he's going to aim high. He's been a consistent winner, a good player. I still think there's a chance Houston brings him back. And he's also, like we mentioned with Pivetta early, he's got that qualifying offer. I don't see it happening in Philadelphia. I just think I just don't – I don't feel them making an expenditure like that, especially when they got so many other needs, bullpen, back of the rotation. And, so we'll see. But I'm not feeling it. Ruben, you feeling it?
I like the player. I think he's a type of player that Dave Dombrowski would love to have. That said, there's so many things that have to happen for him to become a Philly. I mean, you're talking about, signing him even before you make a trade. Now you got to figure out, where am I going to put him? Am I going to put him at second base and then have Stott be the shortstop and move Trey Turner to the outfield? Or are you going to like shift? Is Castellanos going to be able to be moved, or do you put him at third base? I mean, he can play second, third, or short. As far as the infield is concerned, obviously be playing third base, but he was an outstanding shortstop, and he could play second base as well. So he has that versatility. That said, there's so many different things that have to happen for him to be placed on this roster. I mean, that's being creative, but again, I mean, that's a whole lot of balls in the air. There's already enough balls in the air. You're asking about a lot of stuff to happen.
Jim Zawicki on X. Who do you think will be the most impactful addition to the Phillies bullpen? I mean, could be anybody, really. What
I kind of like the idea of the left-hander from Miami. He used to be with Baltimore. He's actually grown up quite a bit. Why am my brain locking on the closer?
I'm trying to think who you're talking about.
It was with the Marlins and then traded to
Tanner Scott?
Tanner Scott, then traded to
Okay.
I think Tanner Scott's an interesting guy because we've seen him so much over the years. I don't know. We'll see.
Would you trade for Ryan Helsley from the Cardinals? He's got a year left on his deal.
Yeah.
They don't need a closer. They basically said, we're going to let the young kids play, and we're not going to invest in a lot of free agents.
They're going to ask for a lot. They're going to ask for an Alec Bohm type player that they can control, or somebody who's of big quality, either a Crawford or a whatever. But you're only looking at 1 year of the guy. He's really good, and basically Rob Thompson's throwing that guy in the ninth, and that's it. And he's the guy. Which is something that Rob Thompson has not had the opportunity to do in his career as a manager. Just
depending what happens in St. Louis with Arenado, right? That could be a possibility.
Correct.
That would increase their interest in Bohm. And I mean, Devin Williams is out there. Still like change the scenery for Clay Holmes. I think a guy like Clay Holmes could come here and do well.
Plus the other thing, the thing about Alec Bohm is he can also play first base. If you do not, they don't have a first baseman right now.
That's true.
So, I mean, if they wanted to be aggressive to make that move, he doesn't necessarily have to play third base for now.
Right.
Play first.
That'd be interesting. That'd be a way to kind of get people fired up to actually have the first legit roll them out there closer instead of going closer by committee for the past few years, which has worked. But Helsley would be interesting. Jonathan Rutter, Facebook, instead of potentially trading Ranger, maybe make him a closer?
I think we talked about that a few months ago, how he can fill so many roles. And in his time here, he's been a starter, a closer, a long man. If he's here and he's not having success in the rotation, that's where you're going to have to be creative with it, to get creative with him to get the most out of him. Right. But coming into the season, he's going to be, for me, I want to see him in the rotation, see if he can get it back to where he was in the first half.
So that would be sort of a role reversal from what we did with Brett Myers, right? We slid Brett Myers back into the rotation after he was closing for us in 2007, slid him back into the rotation and got Brad Lidge. Now you end up getting a Crochet and you put him in the rotation, and maybe you slide, Ranger, even though you want the pitching depth, maybe that's the decision. You slide Ranger back into the back end of the bullpen.
That would be
interesting. That's creative.
Yeah, that is creative. But Ruben, I like what you said last week. I think it was when he said Ranger on the last year of his deal, pitching for the next big contract. He's like, I want that motivated Ranger in the rotation. So that would be a nice problem to have. You get Garrett Crochet in a trade, and you're going, hey, maybe we throw Ranger in the back of the bullpen. That would be interesting.
Ranger has to be looking at these contracts and going, oh my God, if I just put together a 180 inning pitched season, I could be making $200 million.
Yes.
Think about that for a second. I mean, that's quite the carrot. That's not like a little baby carrot that you see on, Warner Brothers with Bugs Bunny. It's a whole bushel of them.
It is.
Tyler, that's why he's going to want to start and not go.
That's true too. He probably I don't want to go in the bullpen. I got a year to go in free agency. Tyler on X, what would it cost the Phillies to trade for Byron Buxton from the Twins?
For a guy who can't stay on the field?
Well, so that's the thing, right? Yeah, I mean, the guy. I looked this up. I had the benefit of seeing these questions beforehand. He hasn't had more than 388 plate appearances in a season since 2017.
It's insane.
And the 388 was this year. He is hurt every single year. Now, when he is healthy, he is unbelievable. He is a fantastic baseball player, but he's also owed $15 million in each of the next 4 seasons. And a guy with that injury history, I would be sweating bullets because you get older, you usually break down more. Usually,
old guys get hurt.
Yeah, old guys get hurt, and he's a young guy that gets hurt every single year. I don't know if the Twins are going to want to trade him anyway. I don't know what you could get for him. That would be a high risk move, high risk, high reward move. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be real comfortable trading a Justin Crawford in a deal for Byron Buxton or whatever it might be. Ranger Suarez, Alec Bohm, whatever the case.
Twins would be dying to get rid of this guy.
Yeah,
they'd be dying. They're trying to jump payroll. I mean, they're changing their whole.
Change.
Yeah, they have an ownership change. There's no way that Byron Buxton would be a guy that I would be interested in unless they paid him way down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, great talent, but you gotta, your best ability is your availability, and he is not ever available.
So even if they just said in a salary dump, give it, we don't want any of your top 3 or 4 prospects, would you give up a Gabriel Rincones Jr.? I'm just throwing a random name out there and a couple other mid-level prospect guys as a salary dump for the Twins. Would you do that? Take on the $15 million each of the next 4 years and just hope you get something good out of them?
It's
no risky.
Too risky,
man.
Yeah. Chris Donald on X, is Painter guaranteed a spot on the roster, or do you expect him to be in Lehigh Valley at the beginning of the season and a veteran becoming the 5th starter? He's going to start the season in Lehigh Valley.
I think he's going to start the season in warm weather.
There you go. Yeah, he can start in Clearwater. Yeah, work his way up.
He'll get to Lehigh, but
right.
Don't you think, Ruben, wouldn't you start him where the weather's going to be good until May 10th or something?
Absolutely. I would definitely start him down south. It's really about him just getting on the mound. It doesn't matter who he's throwing against.
Yeah.
Right now he's in rehab mode, and then work his way to the point where when he starts to move and I think you're absolutely right on, Jim. You should be working for Luke Merton.
I don't even know that he'll be active.
I think you should be their pitching director. You should talk to Luke and send your resume in, Jim, because you're spot on.
Maybe you're not even activating. Maybe he's pitching extended and through mid-April, late April, and then maybe he gets in a couple official games, and then gets in right around when the leaves start popping, right after the Kentucky Derby, comes to Reading, and because you really want to manage those innings and slow him down a little bit at the beginning while he's still building some workload.
That's true.
So you can evaluate readiness, and if he indeed is ready, which everybody thinks he will be, you're going to get the bulk of his work up here where it really matters. But
yeah, I think that you're going to see. I don't think you're going to see this kid unless something drastic happens sometime between June and September is when you'll probably see him surface at the major league level.
Yeah, so they're going to need some in that 5th spot. PSU Beat Mafia on X. Favorite bullpen player to cover ever? I guess, or in Ruben's case, favorite bullpen guy. I guess he could have been a teammate with, or signed, or traded for. Jim, do you have a favorite bullpen? A favorite reliever?
A lot of
there's so many. I mean, really, it's such a cliche, but a lot of relievers are just great characters, and I find relievers to be just generally decent human beings.
Speaking of, talk about a great man, and Brad Lidge, 48 for 48, storybook year.
Yep.
outstanding gentleman to share his thoughts with reporters like us after games every night. Really let us in. Always told his story. Very, in an accessible, gentlemanly way. But he was just as accessible and gentlemanlike the next year when he was having like an awful year. Yeah. He was the same guy, he was a quality human being. So I would put Brad Lidge and his whole story, the good, the bad, and the person he was, very, very high on that list. But I would also put Billy Wagner. He's on the wall behind me, Todd.
Yeah.
Billy Wagner was a delight to cover because what a personality, what a good guy. Talk about a good human being. And
I love covering Billy.
One of the good things about covering baseball is you get to witness guys at the top of their game, the elite. You get to witness greatness every night. With Brad Lidge in 08, we witnessed greatness. And with Billy Wagner, night after night, it was greatness. And that's why he's very viable to make the Hall of Fame in a couple of weeks. So, Billy Wagner was a delight to cover for me personally. That story on the back of the wall behind my head is the day I caught his bullpen session in Clearwater 20 years ago.
That's amazing.
I think about it's pretty.
We had a lot of laughs about that.
Yeah,
I think about left-handers when I think about bullpen guys. So the guys that I've either played with or against or had play for me, guys like Derek Lilliquist. He was awesome. He was a great teammate in Cleveland. There was Real Cormier, who I thought was a real gem of a human being, just a wonderful, wonderful. God bless him. We miss you, Real. Trying to think of some others. Dan Plesac. I think of all those left-handers who are just really, really great people and good people to be around, and just a joy to either be a teammate or someone who someone was in your organization. Just to name three of them. I'm sure I'm missing a.
Yeah. It's really hard to name. Like you feel like you mentioned Real Cormier. What a great guy!
Awesome.
He was the best.
Great athlete. He had a great year here. He had that one year where he was really struggling. Next year he came back. He was flat out awesome. So many. It was a really good guy as we had a few years ago here. Louis Garcia, remember him? Great guy.
Yeah.
Adam Morgan was,
Adam Morgan, great guy.
I loved Adam Morgan's story. He was ready to retire and go become a fireman, and he ended up going to the bullpen, having a couple pretty good years. So, just so many really good guys to cover, but they backed it up with performance and accountability. Relievers have to have thick skin, man, because when after a game, Todd knows this. So sometimes the only night you end up at a reliever's locker as a reporter is when he messes up and he has a bad night. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I got to get by this guy's locker when he's having a great night. It's just to balance it out. But, the good ones, they understand. They're accountable. They don't hold it against you. So a lot of terrific, terrific guys.
Yeah, sometimes they're being treated like the Baltimore Ravens kicker.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that.
The other guy the other left-hander I want to talk about is J.C. Romero. It's also a phenomenal human being as well. Yeah. Had a great run for us there.
You're right. Matt Strom, I think, said something similar, Ruben. The relief pitchers are kind of like the kickers on a football team. Yeah. You only notice them when they screw up.
Yeah, correct.
And it's very true. And so, Jim, you're right. I try to go over and talk to these guys as much as possible before a game when things are going good. After a game, try to pop over and just chat with them for a minute or two. Because you don't want to be the guy who you don't want to be Dr. Death going over to them only when they blow a game, and then because they notice that. Oh, they notice that.
That's what makes you a pro, Todd. See, that's what makes you a pro, pal.
I only notice. You only come over when I suck. Why is that? Schnecksville mom on Instagram. What moment in the press box was the hardest to not react like a fan?
Oh, that's a good one.
I react like a fan all the time up there. But I'm sitting in the third row. You guys have to hear me. I'm like, that's a terrible pitch. What are you doing?
The truth is that there are a lot of moments when we kind of jump, not jump out of our seats, but there are a lot of moments, Jim, where we kind of go, oh my gosh, what a catch, or what a play, or, Bryce Harper, Bedlam at the bank. You're like, oh my God, that's unbelievable. The final couple innings of Roy Halladay's postseason no-hitter. You're sitting there going, I think this is crazy. I'm here watching this. So there are a lot of those moments. Every day,
From my perspective, I sit at the third level, so I try to stay out of it when I go to the games if I'm not covering or whatever. And I watch reactions of the guys who are in the front row, like yourselves, like you two guys. There's a lot of head snapping, like, oh, I did a head snap. Because you're going to go look at the monitor after the play. Oh, there's the head snap.
Oh, yeah.
I watched the head snap. It's kind of cool. It's kind of
it is. Yeah, you just like, oh my God, what did I just see? We're all baseball fans, and we all appreciate like great performances and great moments, and we all see terrible calls by an umpire the same way. So you sit there, and go, are you kidding? Those types of things.
Jim, what do you
all react that way?
Oh, Stairs' home run.
Didn't you bang your knee on the press box?
Yeah. On the electrical outlet I still got like
bruises.
I still get swelling in that knee because of that. And Victorino's grand slam off Sabathia was big. Just so many of them. Bedlam at the bank. I mentioned this the other day. One of them that got me out of my seat is that brawl between the Yankees and Red Sox when Pedro and Zimmer went at it. And I was at Fenway Park covering that game, and that brought me out of my seat. I'm like, holy, this is crazy. So, I mean, an awful lot of them because we love the game. We love big moments. We're like anybody else. Big moments really. I'll tell you, at night I was not in the press box, and I reacted like a like a fan. Is when Ruben brought Cliff Lee back, working that story till like 3 a.m. and you're just thinking, oh my gosh, the rotation they just put together here. And that was quite a big one.
That's when I was smart, Jim. I was smart back then, and then I don't know what happened after that. But you mentioned two things. Bedlam at the bank when I was in the studio offices watching the game because we were doing pre and post on NBC, and I'm literally jumping around like a little baby child. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I just saw that happen. I can't believe why did they pitch to him? How did Hader not come into the game? I was freaking out,
Yeah.
That was one. And the other one I reacted to, you said you banged your knee. I actually cried when Matt Stairs hit that home run. I literally was crying.
Were you in that? So at Dodger Stadium that night, when he hit that ball off Broxton, it got so quiet. 58,000 people hushed. And all you could hear was there was a luxury suite 2 or 3 down from the press box where the Phillies people were sitting, and you could hear them, yelling and screaming. Were you over in there?
No, I was probably in there. I don't know if I was yelling and screaming. I was so in shock. I was so in shock. I was tearing. I was literally like, holy shnikes. This just happened.
I always tell people, I said that you can watch that instant replay of Stairs' home run a million times. It does not do it justice of how high and far that ball sailed out of that ballpark, even though you see where it landed, but just to see it actually live and in person, I was like, I've never seen a ball hit that far. I wish they had
how loud it was off the bat. It was like literally a cannon shot.
Yeah, it was crazy. We kind of talked about this last week, but if you guys wanted to add anything, what inspired the love of baseball for each of you? And since you have a decade or more under your belt in baseball, what keeps it going? That's from Jay on X. Anything you guys? We kind of talked about this last week in our Thanksgiving episode. So go back and listen to that. That was we talked a lot about where we kind of got our passion for the game from. Who is the best December free agent or trade acquisition in Phillies history? That's from Phil's fan DLR on Instagram. There's a lot of great December. I mean,
Roy Halladay and Cliff Lee were in Roy Halladay and Cliff Lee were in December.
Pete Rose was in December.
Yeah, a lot of them, probably a lot of them.
Yeah,
I would say Roy and Pete were probably two of the best. One was Steve Carlton.
Steve Carlton was in February, late February.
Okay.
I looked because that was the first guy I went to when they get
Yeah.
Steve Carlton, and that was in February because Rick Wise wanted a raise. Steve wanted a very modest raise from the Cardinals, and Augie Bush said, "We're not paying that guy an extra $5,000 a year."
Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing?
Worked that well for the Phillies.
Correct. It did.
There used to be a day like, you mentioned, Carlton, you said February?
Yes, late February.
But that was a trade. But there was a time when free agency, the bulk of it happened in November, December, especially December, leading up to the winter meetings. And a lot of teams had most of their business, buckled up by Christmas. And now it extends into January and February, as we saw with Bryce Harper, Jake Arrieta, even March. It just is extended so long. But, as a baseball writer, back maybe a decade or so ago or more, January was that 1 month where you could kind of catch your breath a little bit. Right. I remember actually going out and covering playoff football because, baseball was that was the dormant month. Teams had completed their off-season construction. Now you're counting down to spring training. But now the off-season is every bit of it. And one of the things we need to discuss, I was actually speaking with Rob Kessner recently, is, should there be some, we probably need to dedicate an entire podcast to this maybe later in the winter, but should there be some deadlines like the other sports where the free agent periods are shorter and very intense and they gain a lot of attention? It's almost like event status. I don't know, but I certainly think it's something we could talk about maybe in another podcast.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how everybody takes that because, the MLBPA wants as much openness as possible, but for the sport itself, for the good of the sport, it may be best to say, okay, here's January 20th or January 30th or whatever the date may be, where your free agents, your major league free agents must be signed by. I think that would create a lot of buzz and it would help sell tickets. I mean, it's important for front offices to be able to sell their product and to know which teams are going to be walking into their, spring training camps. And I think that's an important element as well.
Yeah. I would personally love it. I think it'd be
great.
I don't know if the union would go for it, if they think that maybe teams would try to hold everybody's feet to the fire and lowball them or whatever. So it would be great though. I would personally have. Last question. This is from Sam Viola on Instagram. Who's your favorite player that you covered or in Ruben's case been a teammate with? Can you pick? Same thing with the bullpen guys. It's so tough to pick one guy. I always say, and we had him on our show. I loved covering Jeff Francoeur. He was only here for one season, but just a great guy, super personal. He played on a crappy team, but
thanks a lot, Todd.
Yeah, he did. Ruben, he probably played on a crappy team.
It was a crappy team.
It was a crappy team,
but he was helpful.
But he was helpful. And what I liked about Jeff Francoeur is he brought a great attitude into the clubhouse every day. He wasn't moping. We've seen really good players as a team starts to go down, become really all of a sudden go from being good teammates to like problem teammates. And Jeff Francoeur was a Class A, grade A guy from day one through day 162, no matter how bad that team was playing. And so I enjoyed that. So I put Jeff Francoeur at the top of my list. So many other guys though. Chooch, Shane Victorino. We just had Jason Worth on. We talked, Jim and I, about how much we love covering Jason Worth. There's a billion guys. Yeah.
I liked covering Jimmy Rollins. I covered him
J-Roll.
Really from the day he was drafted until he left the Phillies and even beyond. And it's hard for me to name one guy because there's literally dozens that I enjoyed both personally and professionally. And I was, captured by their story and I loved telling their story. But Jimmy and even Curt Schilling, they did great things on the field and then they said interesting things after the game. Billy Wagner was a lot like that, but I hope I'm literally dozens and dozens upon just were a joy to watch and cover. So I don't know that I could name one guy, but a guy like Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, I mean, those guys are in the rare air.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys go without saying. I have them from different perspectives. So as a teammate, when I was playing, Kevin Jordan was a very close friend of mine. We did everything together, both benchmates through the late 90s. And so he, as a teammate, I would say that one of the most favorite guys I've ever and will ever be around is Mookie Betts. Having coached him. Just a phenomenal human being and a great player and someone that, frankly, if anybody gets a chance to be around a guy like that, you're really fortunate. Jim Thome was a great teammate and a great human being. He was everything that the Phillies needed at the right time. Ed Way did an amazing job of bringing him to Philadelphia. I mean, you start talking about like unbelievable human beings. And, the Utleys and the Rollinses and all those guys just and even Ryan Howard, what a superb human being. Just great, really, really good guys that you were fortunate to be around. Not just great players, but great people. But I've been around a million of them, and I'm sure I'm going to end up screwing it up because there's so many of them, as Jim said, and Todd, you alluded to as well, that there's just so many phenomenal human beings that we've gotten a chance to be around. And in my role, I've gotten a chance to be around a zillion of them. I mean, Mike Schmidt, I love Mike Schmidt. Mike Schmidt has come a long, long way from the time that he was very sort of maligned in Philadelphia. And now he's, part of the broadcast team with us and just a lot more comfortable with his own skin. I got a chance to know him as a person and as an employee because he worked for us, but so many different people that are just really phenomenal people.
Well, tons of them. And how about Todd, you mentioned this guy the other day, Andres Blanco. What a gentleman. What a good guy, what a good teammate, what a good player.
Yes.
Could do a little bit of everything. Just a good guy to have on your roster. And
Freddie Galvis. Freddie was in a tough spot. Freddie was a good, really great teammate, a good team guy, and he had to take over for Jimmy Rollins of all people. It's a difficult, task.
Another guy that brought a great attitude to the clubhouse on some teams that really struggled was Freddie Galvis. That guy really wanted to win, and he really went about it the right way. So, Ryan Howard, you mentioned Ryan Howard. People always ask me about Bryce Harper. Bryce is tremendous in that clubhouse for us, for sure. He's always available, good or bad, almost always. So, there's guys like that are everywhere. So,
Kyle Schwarber, too.
Kyle Schwarber.
We start talking about the guys on this team right now. Kyle Schwarber, to me, is sort of like the perfect teammate, I think. A perfect guy to have and one of the better leaders in the clubhouse.
Quality guy. So that's why these questions are really dangerous because you end up leaving guys out and then you're thinking of more. We could go on forever and
ever.
There's so many.
I'll sit there and later 3 hours from now I go, I should have mentioned Mike Lieberthal. He was a great, he's a great guy, and Randy and all those guys. So Jim, we're going to give out a T-shirt to the best question. Did you write one down? Do you think one pop out to you? Who do you think should get the free Philly show swag?
How about the moments that brought us out of our seat in the press box?
That's a good one.
All right, really I like that. One. That was Schnecksville Mom on Instagram. Nice. So there you go. So I'll reach out to her and we'll reach out to her and try to get her a Philly show.
Is that Lisa?
I'm not sure who that is. I'm not sure.
But how can you get these though, Todd?
You can go to thephillyshow.com. It'll send you to my website where I sell my books, but and just threw it all together at the last minute. And you can go get your T-shirts, your Philly Show T-shirts. So but they're by 47 brand. They're really good quality.
They're fantastic quality T-shirts.
Yes, they are. So that was fun, guys. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks to the winner for her winning question. Don't forget to go to shibesports.com/TPS. You can enter to win that free Mitchell & Ness Phillies hoodie, and then you can use the Philly Show promo code to get 15% off everything at Shibe Sports. I've been to Shibe. I've talked to you guys about this. I've been to their stores before. It's a great spot. So, guys, we'll be back later this week. Maybe things are starting to get moving. Maybe the Phillies maybe they'll make a move this week going into the winter meetings, which begin a week from today, Dallas winter meetings. So I'll talk to you guys later.
Smell you later, boys.
Bye, Jim.
The Philly Show is brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Subscribe to The Philly Show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like us, give us a review. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, and Threads. Find Ruben's analysis before, during, and after Phillies games on NBC Sports Philadelphia, on the Sports Radio 94 WIP Morning Show, and MLB Network. Find Jim at allphly.com. Find me at MLB.com, the Phillies Beat newsletter, and MLB Network.